The heroine of the Grange's Imperial examination sublimation road. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 1, The Beginning of the Crossing. Anton Ling, a former modern white-collar worker, is full of endless plans and goals for life. However, a car accident wakes her up to find herself in a strange ancient world. The world was different from the bustling cities she was familiar with the silence all around, with the occasional birdsong and the distant sound of farmland plowing. When she discovers that she has become a rural woman named Ranjiu, her old memories are gradually erased and replaced by a new life. At the beginning of the crossing, she didn't feel too much confusion. After all, Ranjiu's identity was not low, and she was still a landlord's daughter-in-law who owned a grange. However, she found that although the grange was busy, it seemed to hide some unknown secrets. Moreover, the rules of this world are very different from her original world, which makes her both excited and a little anxious, especially after meeting a young indigenous husband, Liu Yunfan. Liu Yunfan, the seemingly inconspicuous husband, is only 20 years old, with a delicate face and a thin figure. However, there was an unusual firmness in his eyes. His identity is not prominent. He has lived in a remote mountain village with his parents since he was a child, but because he has a good calligraphy talent, he was adopted by Ranjiu's family and became her husband. Lady, I can accompany you to the fields. Liu Yunfan stood in front of her, his eyes were gentle, but with a hint of imperceptible expectation. Ranjiu smiled slightly, and she had already begun to have a plan in her heart. She didn't just want to be a typical rural woman, but wanted to make a career in this new world. Over the years, the way of governing the country that I have learned in books has finally come in handy. Okay, Yunfan, let's go to the fields today, and by the way, ask the old people in the village for some farming skills. She laughed, and began to have a new idea for the field. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 2 Women's Heart, Business Scheme. Ranjiu's Grange is not only the foundation for survival, but also a springboard for her future career. She began to combine modern agricultural knowledge with ancient techniques to improve the soil and increase crop yields. Gradually, the farm's production began to increase, and the surrounding neighbors came to ask her how to run it. Liu Yunfan, although young, he is proficient in calligraphy and has excellent learning. With Ranjiu's support, he began to prepare to participate in the Imperial examination, in order to obtain more resources and opportunities for his wife and himself in the future. One day, Ranjiu took Liu Yunfan and a few village women to the market. This is her first attempt to bring her own local products to the market. She puts rice, vegetables, and special sauces grown in her farm on her stall. These are the specialties of our own farm, which are guaranteed to be fresh and additive-free. Ranjiu smiled and introduced to the customers who came to the booth. Her stall attracts a lot of customers, who are raving about the fresh ingredients and the sauces she makes with great care. Liu Yunfan, on the other hand, is responsible for receiving customers, communicating with them, and explaining to them the characteristics of various ingredients and how to eat them. Soon, the market was attracted by her stall, and business was booming, allowing Ranjiu to see more business opportunities. She understands that this road is definitely not just about farming, but about promoting the products of the Grange to a larger market, and even further developing trade cooperation with surrounding neighboring villages. However, Ranjiu was not satisfied with this. She decided to develop a different path, and attracted some high-end customers by dealing in lingerie and accessories. Not only did she set up stalls in the market, but she also arranged caravans to travel to other cities to sell her products to more places. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 3, The Situation of the Imperial Examination and the Changes in the Family. As the days passed, Liu Yunfan's Imperial examination was approaching, and his mood became more and more nervous. Although he had always been confident in his learning, the path of the Imperial examination was full of variables. Every time he takes the exam, he may lose everything and even be unable to continue taking it. Chan Wan, you've worked hard during this time. Liu Yunfan sat down on her side, his tone a little soft. If I can't get lifted, can this continue? Ranjiu patted the back of his hand gently. No matter what the result is, we still have this Grange and these growing businesses. Every step you have taken over the years has laid a solid foundation for our future. Liu Yunfan looked at her with a faint smile on his face. You are always so confident, and I can always get strength from you. At this moment, a letter from the capital was delivered to the home. The content of this letter made Ranjiu's heart skip a beat. Chan Wan, this is the admission result of the Imperial examination. There was a hint of uncertainty in Liu Yunfan's tone. I A hint of surprise flashed in Ranjihu's eyes, and then turned firm. No matter what the result is, we have succeeded. However, when she opened the envelope, she was surprised by the contents of the letter. Lu Yunfan actually managed to be at the top of the Imperial examination and became a Jinchi. Chapter 4 Layers of Family Whirlpools. With Lu Yunfan's entrance examination, Ranjihu's life has changed again. Their family gradually attracted more attention, especially several famous families in the capital, and they also began to cast different eyes on the couple. One day, several ladies gathered in the house and began to talk about their husbands' preferences, with a little pride in their tones. Mrs. Tobe said with a smile, although my husband is cold and warm-hearted, he likes the clothes and ornaments I made with my own hands the most. I've never seen him unhappy all these years. Mrs. Shalang smiled and said, my husband is gentle and reserved, and he likes sweet soup the most, and every time I serve a bowl of hot soup, he can forget all his worries. There was a bit of tenderness and pride in her words. Ranjihu was silent for a while, and said lightly, what my husband likes the most is to discuss the affairs of the Grange with me every day, as well as every new business opportunity. There was confidence in her tone. At this time, Lu Yunfan was listening, with a touching smile on his face, and this relaxed conversation from his wife made him more determined to manage the future within Ranjihu. Chapter 5, The Expansion and Examination of the Family. As Lu Yunfan was admitted to the Jinchi examination, the family's economic situation grew steadily, and Ranjihu's Grange and commercial business became more and more successful. Ranjihu and Lu Yunfan's fame gradually spread in the surrounding villages, and many merchants and nobles came to visit and seek cooperation with them. During this time, Ranjihu further divided her family's fields, opened up more farmland, and at the same time introduced the cultivation of new crops, and began to trade with merchants in other places. She had a keen eye, and the introduction of these new crops diversified her business, which in turn led to the growing wealth of her family. However, with the accumulation of wealth has also brought a lot of trouble. One day, Ranjihu received a letter from the capital mentioning that some of her competitors had begun to express concern about her business and were trying to undermine her market position. Dissatisfied with her business model and the success of the Grange, these people began to work in secret, trying to use means to suppress her business. Chanwan, these people are just trying to challenge our foundation. After reading the letter, Lu Yunfan frowned slightly. Ranjihu pondered for a moment, then showed a smile. Yunfan, this is our chance. Our chance? Lu Yunfan looked at her in surprise. Yes. Ranjihu slowly spoke, they thought they could suppress us, but in fact, this was their recognition of us. The more they try to undermine us, the more our strength threatens their position. In this way, we will have more room to expand our power. As a result, Ranjihu began to mobilize various resources in her hands, and together with Lu Yunfan, she actively deployed to fight against business challenges from the capital. She began to join forces with more business elites to expand her business alliances, improve the quality of her own products, and gradually marginalize competitors through clever marketing techniques. During this time, Lu Yunfan's Imperial examination career was also in full swing. With his extraordinary talent and Ranjihu's help, he successfully entered the Imperial court and became a well-known official. However, the position also brought more political strife and sinister hearts. Once, Lu Yunfan was invited to attend a banquet in the Imperial court and negotiated with several high-ranking officials. When he returned home, Ranjihu couldn't help but tighten when she saw him frowning. Yunfan, what's going on? She asked. Lu Yunfan smiled bitterly. In the conversation with several colleagues in the Imperial court today, some people expressed dissatisfaction with my position and hinted that if I am not careful, I will be suppressed. He paused slightly. It's a political game, and no matter how well I do, I can't avoid such a power struggle. Ranjihu frowned slightly. There is no need to worry too much about such a thing, since we are already standing at this high place, we will inevitably be challenged by all kinds of challenges. To deal with these people, it is not by force or trickery alone, but by learning to use wisdom. Her tone was calm and firm. If you can be like a fish in water in the court, their plot will eventually be exposed. Chapter 6, Crises and Breakthroughs in Marriage. As Lu Yunfan's official position gradually rose, Ranjihu found that the relationship between husband and wife began to become delicate. Lu Yunfan was gradually busy with the affairs of the Imperial court, and the time to go home became less and less, while she devoted more and more energy to the Grange and business. The conversation between the two became briefer, and care and support were gradually replaced by work and responsibility. One day, Ranjihu suddenly felt an uneasy emotion. as if something was faintly wrong in her heart. She looked at Liu Yunfan, who was correcting the official documents, and suddenly found that his eyes no longer had the affection and tenderness that they had when they first met. Yunfan, it seems that we are too busy to have a good chat during this time. And Rangjaihu spoke softly, with a hint of helplessness in her tone. Liu Yunfan lowered his head, as if he felt a little guilty. Huan Wan, You're busy with government affairs, and I'm trying to run my family's business. And Rangjaihu squeezed out a smile. We all have our own responsibilities, but have we also neglected to care for each other? Liu Yunfan raised his head and stared at Rangjaihu deeply, with some complicated emotions in his eyes. Suddenly, he shook in Rangjaihu's hand. I'm sorry, Chan Wan. I know, I ignored you. Over the years, you have not only helped me succeed in the Imperial examinations, but also run the family business with me, while I have been busy with officialdom and neglected my feelings for you. And Rangjaihu's eyes flashed with tenderness, and she shook her head slightly. Over the years, I have no regrets. I am willing to share the responsibility with you. She paused for a moment, but we also have to remember that no matter where we are, the relationship between husband and wife is still the most important. At this moment, Liu Yunfan deeply understood that no matter how much he achieved in officialdom, he still needed Rangjaihu as his pillar and support in the end. From that day on, the two decided to readjust the pace of their lives, spending more time with each other, and facing the challenges and difficulties of the future together. They continue to work hard in their respective fields, but they know better how to balance career and family. Chapter 7 Final Victory. With the passage of time, Rangjaihu and Liu Yunfan went through various challenges and finally became the most successful husband and wife of that era. Their Grange business spread all over the country, and Liu Yunfan's position in the court was becoming more and more secure. Both men have achieved unparalleled success, both in business and in politics, and have become role models to look up to. However, this experience also made them understand the truth. The ultimate victory comes not only from the achievements of the outside world, but also from the inner strength and the love and support between each other. At the end of the story, the two walked hand in hand into the future, and no matter how many difficulties and dangers lie ahead, they are no longer afraid.